Alright, let's have a look at the forehand volley. Over the years, I think volley is something that's become a little bit of a lost art in the modern game of tennis. I think there's a few reasons for this. Mostly, back in the day, it was a lot of serve volley. People practiced their volley, a lot more. They were in at the net in matches a lot more, and these days, if you watch the kids train, they're from the baseline, a lot of baseline rallying, baseline points, cross courts. When they do come up to the net, they hit a few volleys from a standing position. They're not working very much on their transition game. And it is a hard thing to work on. It's easier to stand on the baseline and move around and do 2-on-1s and that sort of thing. It's very hard to hit an approach, hit one volley, and then knock off the second volley. Then you've got to round back around, get back behind the baseline and do it again. So you're never going to be able to get the same amount of volume in that. I think also with the open stance forehands and the modern swings, if we look at Novak here, the aim on the baseline is pretty much plant your feet behind the ball and get your feet set in position, and you're then looking for racket speed. So from here, he's going to take the racket back, and the racket is swinging violently forward. And that this forward swing pretty much pulls his body around. Also, if we go on to Roger, same thing. Set your feet, and then drive the racket at the ball. You see the racket is moving forward a lot faster than the body is moving forward. Whereas, the way the volleys are, it's different. The volley, you watch these guys, they keep that racket in front of their volley, in front of their body. See where the wrist is compared to the hip, and then the racket sort of stays there. The body is going almost the same speed as the racket forward until the follow through, where they'll come through a little bit. Same with Johnny Mack. He just sets that racket behind the ball, and then he's going to move his body through the ball for the volley. Pete Sampras, another great serve and volleyer, sets the racket, contact out in front, and the body weight is going through the ball. We'll take a closer look at this soon. There's Taylor Dent, guy with great volleys. Side on here, you can see where that wrist is compared to his hip. His wrist stays well in front of his hip. Contact well out in front of the body, and then moving forward through the ball. There's Tim Henman. Again, he sets that wrist, keeps it in front of his hip, out in front. And there's his volley. Now here's Pat hitting some volleys. You can see his problem is he's more of the baseline mold, where you want to set your feet and then swing at the ball. He's set his feet here. You can see his wrist has gone well behind his hip. It's a big margin for error, and you just don't need that when you're so close to the net and the ball's coming fast at you. Contact's not far enough out in front, and there's no body weight going forward there through the ball. This one he did have to move for, but you can see here how far back he's taken that racket to swing at it. Not needed. Take a better angle forward, cut off that ball, volley out in front, and take that guy's time away. Again, sets the feet, wrist too far back behind him. Plant the feet, swing at the ball. So we don't want to see that. I mean, the higher the volley is, the more the racket will come back to the body, and on a head-high volley you will go behind, but I want Pat to stop getting that wrist behind his hip like that. Set that racket, there it is again, and then just move forward through it. And see what he's doing. He's setting his feet and swinging the arm. So this is Taylor's coming from further back in the court, but what you see, they're in similar position here. Pat's racket's up a little bit too high. The good guys, they just find the line of the ball, put the racket behind the ball, and then go forward through it. So Pat's now taking his racket back, where Taylor's set his wrist is well out in front. You can see the swing. Pat's wrist is well behind or equal with his right hip. Taylor's is well in front of the right hip. And the contact is further out in front. And then he'll move forward through that. So some of the big things to look for, like I was saying, is if you watch Boris's wrist here, keeps it well away from his hip. You can see he's set the racket now in the line of the ball, and he's only going to move forward from there. And the other thing is to look for is the contact. You can see he's in front or level with his front knee, and he's moving forward with his body. How far they can get forward with the ball. Same with Taylor. See his wrist. He recognises the line of the volley. Keeps that wrist out in front. Lays the racket back, well away from his hip. And from there, he's also going to go forward, and his contact's going to be around that front knee and body weight moving forward. So for Pat, we want a lot more moving forward. You can see, they're going to make contact at the same time. Pat's racket is really lagging. Taylor's is already well away from that hip. He's never taken the racket back. This guy's hit harder. There's too much margin for error for this, and you want to go forward as much as possible to cut away time. It's a lot more beneficial than taking a big swing at the ball. And there's the contact. Taylor's got a nice stride forward, where Pat's is more across. So, I think there's two ways you need to work on your volley. You need to go up to the net and get a feel with your hands, but just try and keep that wrist out in front and away from the hip. So you're just gradually moving forward. Even if you do end up volleying forward, try and take a step back, then maybe take 2 steps forward, then a step back. So you hit sort of 3 volleys and you end up at the net. And then do a lot more movement from baseline, where you are volleying at the service line, and then the next one knocking off an easier volley. I think people spend a lot of time up at the net, standing there volleying, get into a match. I've been through a lot of these guys' matches, and you don't see many volleys like that. If it is like that, it's generally a very easy put away volley. So, got to work on these tougher ones that we see you'll get when people are serve volleying.